Hey everybody, how are you? Welcome to my car and welcome to our October Facebook Live. We were meant, of course, to be in my office. As life so does, and certainly COVID does, our schedules got a little turned around, and I'm picking up our sweet boy at about 12:30, 12:35 from school. So I'm just around the corner from his school and thought we could do this here. So forgive me for the crooked screen and for the car, and I hope this doesn't fall down. But welcome to our Q&A and welcome to my car. I've actually printed up some questions that you guys were sweet enough to email to me. I'm going to tackle those. Please also feel free in the chat to ask questions. I've never actually done this on my phone before though, guys. So I'm not entirely sure that I can read your questions and not hang up on you. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll try to answer it. But in the meantime, I'm going to tackle the questions that were emailed in the last few days. So hi to you all. I can't see who you are, but I see that you're all coming on and I'm so glad that you're here. Let's go ahead and get started. And all of these are going to be saved too. So if you're coming in late or you missed a question or you missed one of the Q&As and you want to go back and take a look, if you go to the the Art of Singing page on Facebook under videos, you can see all of our past conversations too. So that shouldn't be a problem. So we had 3 people in the last couple of days email some great questions from around the world, actually. So we're going to start here with Masako in Japan. And I'll actually do, because Kelly, for example, in Baltimore sent a number of questions. So I'm going to just do one of each. Oh, wait, here we go. What is your favorite style of singing? Oh, good. So I can see your questions. Hi, Cynthia. My favorite style of singing. Well, personally, I love to myself sing commercial music and musical theater, but I work with singers who sing all kinds of styles. I trained classically too. And while I don't work with many classical singers these days, I enjoy that style as well. So I'm glad I saw your comment. I'm glad that I can do that on my phone. Okay, so let's get to Masako's first question. What are the best ingredients for your most natural, beautiful voice, both physical and psychological? Okay, so of course a super simple question, not. Let's see, what are the best ingredients for your most natural, beautiful voice? Well, I think let's tackle the physical one first. In my first book, The Art of Singing, there's 2 Art of Singings. One is discovering and developing your true voice, and one is The Art of Singing on Stage and in the Studio. But in the first one, I talk about something called the 4 C's, and it's kind of a guidepost, a way for you to ascertain whether or not you're on the right track. And I think, Masako, if you're watching, even though I know it's very late there now, but maybe in the replay, what those are is the 4 C's are if you are able to sing comfortably, consistently, creatively, and on command, then you know that you're on the right track. And I will say just a little bit about that, about each of those, because they are distinct. Actually, I'm going to, yeah, good. I just wanted to get a sense of time so I don't miss picking my little boy up. So comfortably, of course, makes sense. If you can sing comfortably, meaning that you're having no trouble singing, you're not getting tense, you're not getting fatigued, you're not getting stressed or strained. Singing consistently means that you can sing in the same style for any length of time. So, for example, if you're able to sing a song, but after 3 times of singing that song you have trouble, that's not consistent. On command is similar, but it touches upon something distinct in my mind. To be able to sing on command means that at any time of day you can sing in any particular way. So, for example, you can sing consistently with tension, but you can't sing on command if you're always singing with tension, because in some way that's going to inform the way your voice functions. And last but not least, if you're able to sing creatively, what that points to is the ability to sing with flexibility, not just in terms of actual agility, but to sing different styles. So I have some singers that will come to me, for example, and they can sing these beautiful riffs and runs. But if you ask them to sing a different riff, they have a lot of trouble. And that shows me that they're not able to sing what's called, in my mind, creatively, meaning they've been able to carve out a type of musculature that allows certain styles or certain runs in this case, but they're not free and flexible enough to be able to do various different things. So Masako and others, I think that's the kind of the standard that I use when I'm thinking if someone is singing free and beautifully, can they adhere to those 4 C's? And then I think psychologically, how do you, to read your question literally again, what are the best ingredients for your most natural, beautiful voice psychologically? This is a question that's near and dear to my heart. I spend quite a lot of time in my writing talking about having a healthy relationship with our voices and with ourselves as singers. I think, to answer your question briefly here in this context, I think really making sure that you are on the very fine line between having a wonderful, fulfilling, nurturing, loving relationship with your instrument, that you're on that side of the line rather than crossing over to where many singers go, which is into codependency, where we not only have a voice, but really perceive that we are our voices. And I think our culture does quite a lot to nurture the latter, the idea of being one with the voice, codependent with the voice. Who am I if I'm not a singer? Who am I without my voice? I think that's where people get into trouble. So I think having that type of healthy distance, for lack of a better way of saying it, where we have a voice, we love our voices, we feel fulfilled when singing, but not defined. Our self-worth is not defined by being singers. I think that's where we have real health kind of kicks in there. So welcome. I see more and more of you coming on. First of all, Masako, I hope that answered your question. For those of you just joining us, welcome to my car. I have to pick up my son right around 12:30, so so we're here this month, but next month we'll be back in the office and I'll be able to see your questions. So let's move on to Kelly. So that was Masako from Japan, emailed that in. Oh, Kathy, hello, my friend. It's so good to see you. Kathy and I were in Cirque du Soleil together years ago. Oh my gosh, you made my heart so happy by seeing you here. Okay, so moving on to Kelly in Baltimore, actually asked 5 different questions. They're all fantastic. Let me just pick one, and then we'll move on to Nini in China. And then if any of you guys have questions too, we'll do the same thing. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Missy. I'm so happy to see you guys here. Welcome to my car. Kelly is asking, you state in the first art of singing, create and implement language that reflects and expresses the physical process as you experience it. Can you provide an example of what you mean? This was in the context of helping to free or hinder singing. Okay, so Kelly, thank you, Kelly, if you're here. Kelly is touching on, I think it's the 3rd chapter of The Art of Singing is dedicated to language and my opinions about how we can utilize it to help us in our singing and being rather than have it hinder us. So she's asking specifically, how do you create and implement language that reflects and expresses the physical process as you experience it? Kelly, to answer your question, in my experience working with singers and also as a singer, and honestly in life, I find that we reach for, oh, you're welcome, Masako. I'm glad you're here. Oh my goodness, it must be midnight there in Japan or something. I'm so glad you stayed up. I hope that was helpful. So back to Kelly's question, I think we default to language. We use words like love, or in the case of singing, we use support, engage your support, high notes, low notes. We use these words really without really consciously thinking about or claiming them as our own. And that's not always a problem, but oftentimes it is. Oftentimes when we use words, for example, like a high note, something's being high, unconsciously or semi-consciously, our bodies and minds literally reach up. They try to achieve the meaning of the word as we have consciously and otherwise come to define it, And that creates a physical experience that might not help us in our best singing. So how do we create and implement language that reflects and expresses the physical process as we experience it? We do that by first having the experience in as much of a languageless way as possible. So when I work with singers, I try very hard to leave to the side any discussion of technique, any discussion or labels or specific engagements I want people to try on. We begin by singing, by using the voice. And when something clicks and really works, and I can see that that person's had an aha moment of, oh, this makes sense, we'll work as a team to say, well, how does that feel to you? What does that feel like? What's a word that's an apt description for you of how you experience that correct engagement for yourself and in your own body? And what's interesting, guys, is that it's not often what you'd think. Sometimes for support, people have called that everything from spinging, is a combination of speaking and singing. Marty, once upon a time, called it that, and that's always stuck with me. Or bearing down, or there's all kinds of things. So when you first had the experience and then reach for language, you know that you are using it to describe rather than define an engagement that you've already had. And so that becomes the primary experience that you can always return to, rather than a word you haven't chosen that might not optimally direct you to your best singing. So I hope that answers your question, Kelly. And she has some others too. If you all don't have questions, I'll go back to some of hers. But first, let me, Nini, who actually I worked this morning with online, of course, she's in China. She asked me, and I just jotted it down, a very profound question, guys. How do you know if you're good enough to make it in the industry? And she's actually not online with us now. She's fast asleep, but these recordings will all be available on the Art of Singing page. Oh, good. Oh, hi, Kelly. I'm glad that was helpful. You're welcome. And if we don't get to all of your questions, Kelly, today, we will another time or next month or in a masterclass, which I'll talk about too. So for now, though, Nini asked this morning, how do you know if you're good enough to make it? And like all of your questions, guys, these are deep ones, but my off the top thoughts on that, and as I shared with her, I think that talent is subjective, and of course, making it is not a specific path. If you want to be a doctor, you go to medical school, you do your residency, et cetera, and 9 times out of 10, barring any kind of massive problem or academic failing, you'll be a doctor. Of course, as we know, in the creative realm, it's not that way, not only because there's so many people vying for so few spots, but also because there's not necessarily a direct correlation between talent and success. So I think you have to really look less to, do I have what it takes to make it? Oh, look, a leaf just came in through my sunroof. Thank you, nature. Thank you, universe. This is my favorite season, so it's lovely to see them falling through all the different colors. But going back to what I was saying, I think we have to focus less on an exterior judgment. Am I good enough according to someone or something outside of myself? And more, do I have the passion and the drive and the determination and the commitment and the longing to both express myself as a creative artist, and I believe, as importantly, to contribute to others using my gift? And I think if that's there for you, if that unquenchable thirst is in you and that longing is there, then that is what will propel you forward. Now, of course, you always want to be able to see yourself clearly and objectively. And in, I think, the second art of singing, I talk about what I have always relied on, which is what I call my trusted 5. And I think regardless of the number, having a group of people around you that you trust and who love and trust you and have your best interest at heart, that's important. They can give you the feedback to say, are you on the right track? Are you doing well? Are you progressing? Are you using your talents in the best way for you and for the community and world? That feedback is important, but I think getting hung up on, am I good enough, can be really challenging and frankly energy stifling and limiting. So I hope, Nini, that helps when you wake up and hop online and see this. And of course we can talk more about all of this. Oh, Marilyn, it looks like has asked a question. What is your approach to singing and it seems to get stuck in my throat? Hi, Marilyn, by the way. Thank you. Well, let's see. So when we sing on vowels, for those of you who may not be totally clear on Marilyn's question, I think she's asking, how do you sing on an vowel? So, you can sing on an E or an So whereas E is forward, E and for some people can go back. E, can get back in the throat. I think, Marilyn, is your point. For me, and I know this tends to probably be a little backward from a lot of the way a lot of people think about vowel treatment. For many people and singers, they like to start with vowel placement to lock that in place and then engage the voice. I actually think it's more helpful to find the healthy engagement of the voice and then play with vowels so that they stay in alignment with your voice working as healthily as it always does. And Marilyn, to give you an example here, in our speaking, if you were to say A-E-I-O-U or A-E-I-O-U, I doubt that you'd have trouble with the falling back. It's unlikely that you would experience it as A-E-I-O-U or A-E-O-U. So assuming that that's the case, because we're not together in person, I can't see and hear you. If that is true, that in your speech you have no problem with A-E-O-U, that tells me that when you're singing, something is changing from the way you speak effortlessly and healthily. Something's changing when you shift into singing. There's a bit of tension that when you say your probably because of a not totally engaged support or maybe a bit of laryngeal tension or tongue tension, the result rather than the cause is that the vowel is going back or getting a little muffled. So I would personally focus more on the cause rather than the effect, the engagement rather than the sound of the vowel. And to do that, I would say play more with frontal vowels, oo and e. Sing the same song or exercise that you are struggling with on those vowels and see if that clears it up. And then I would, from an E, for example, or an oo, I would then, with the engagement being on or engaged, I would transition gently, slowly, mindfully from one of the frontal vowels to the So for example, if you were going to do E, I would do E, and see if it can feel the same and comfortable. Or ooh, and if it feels great and nothing's changed experientially, then you can work your way into higher or faster notes, as I like to say, or into whatever area is problematic for you. So I hope that helps answer your question. If you need some more clarification, feel free to write that here. And if anybody else has a question, please type it in. If not, I will shift back to my list. We'll circle back to Kelly, who's in Baltimore. It's fun. We've got the United States, Japan, China. So Kelly's next question, on the topic of seeing if you can come up with a common vision for growing your voice. Interesting. Can you elaborate? What might this look like? Okay. I think she's speaking about the partnership of teaching that I talk about in my writing. So seeing if you can come up with a common vision for growing your voice. You're welcome, Marilyn, and I love seeing you here too. I think that in teaching, and the same thing is true for counseling, in doctor-patient relationships, relationships with lawyers, anyone that we hold in a position of power, we often think of it not as a partnership, but as kind of instructor, one being instructed, or expert and student. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. just like we were saying before about language to Kelly's question earlier, language is only a hindrance if we haven't been mindful about taking it on, taking ownership of it, or creating language that works for us. So similarly here, I think if we go into a relationship with a voice teacher or a voice coach or therapist or whomever, and we feel empowered, like I know this is what I want to learn in terms of my voice. This is how I want to grow in my singing. This is how I want to grow as a person or whatever area of my life. If you walk in with that and you feel empowered in that way, then it's very natural, to your question, Kelly, to create a shared vision for where you want to go with the help of this person supporting and partnering with you. But many people, I'll speak specifically to voice teachers and coaches because that's, I think, what you're asking about, go in with an idea of, I'm not a great singer. I'm not as good of a singer maybe as I perceive this person to be. I need help. I'm nervous. And that lack of confidence, that uncertainty can often, when combined with a teacher who may have an expert attitude, or I'm going to tell you what you need to know, forget what you think you know, let me give you the knowledge, that creates not only a power dynamic that's out of equilibrium, but it can create, even if it's subtle, an anxiety that prevents the optimal learning to occur, because creativity really thrives, I believe, when people feel free and confident and comfortable and trusted and trusting. So that's what I meant by creating a shared vision. That's the spirit of it. And then the other piece to that, Kelly, is really having a conversation about where you want to go. I have a little bit of allergy, guys. That's why I keep rubbing my nose. I think all these beautiful leaves, the pollen, etc., etc. Do you want to heal a vocal injury? Do you want to train, Kelly, as I know in your case, for an upcoming gig? Do you want to strengthen a specific area of your voice? Do you want to really just play and sing songs? So communicating what it is you want, hearing the feedback from your teacher/partner about what he or she thinks is the best path there, or maybe other things that he or she thinks you might also want to consider. Co-creating a path and an outcome can add confidence and comfort to the process that I think when that vision isn't there, sometimes even if lessons are going well, you kind of can feel a bit lost and, directionless, which also then further erodes confidence and can hinder progress. So I hope that helps answer your question, Kelly. Does anybody else have a question here that's online? I'll take a minute and see if something pops up. Oh gosh, I wonder if I can scroll back through. Let me try. If I hang up on you guys, I'm sorry. Hi. There's lots of highs. What is your, I got the ah. Favorite style of singing. Okay, I think I got your live questions here. Great. Okay, so let's go back to Masako in Japan. If you're still here, hi again, Masako. Her second question is, my biggest issue is tension, and I find the register shift and agility exercises to be difficult. What are the steps I should take? Great question. So, tension, again, a little tricky to have the conversation without seeing you in person, of course, but and Marilyn's asking about support, where, how, and when. You guys are asking like very simple questions for a Facebook Live. So yes, tension, agility, and the shift, kind of like what I was saying earlier to Marilyn's point about the ah. I find that agility, which for those of you who might not know, is the rapid movement of the voice, and agility, the ability to move your voice very quickly, and the shifting from chest to head, chest, head. So those two things, when we have problems there, I find that they're less about our facility with agility, well, that rhymes, our facility with agility and the shift, and more that those are demonstrations of tension that we have across the whole instrument and issues that we have just vocally in general. So Masako, without having heard you sing yet, I'll say that for starters, I would therefore not avoid permanently, but just in your general exercises, I would focus more on the basics of engaging your voice healthily. And also to Marilyn's question about support, I don't know if you are working with this, but in my first start of singing, there are about 63 exercises that you can do that walk you through support, agility, the shift from the chest to the head. And so maybe go back to the very beginning of those exercises where we really work on just how to engage the voice. How do we engage the instrument? How do we cultivate and really strengthen the muscles of support so that they can support our voice when we do anything, whether it's sing through songs or use agility or shift between chest and head. So that would be my advice. But I think that one other thing I will say, now coming full circle and speaking specifically to agility and the chest and head shift, even the most capable singers oftentimes focus more on outcome rather than engagement. So when a singer wants to, for example, Masako, to use one of your questions, wants to go from, again, chest to head voice, and they don't want to hear the shift, the head to chest. You can't hear the distinction between my head and chest voice. Many singers, if they hear that break, will try to fix it, not using support, but will try to fix it, ironically, without knowing it sometimes, by holding their breath a bit, by trying to create the sound they want. The same thing with agility. If they're doing a run and they can't hit every note accurately, they'll unknowingly often hold their breath a little bit while they try to really delineate each and every note. I would really do the opposite. Don't focus so much on sound when you're moving between chest and head or when you're doing your runs and riffs. Focus more on comfort, those 4 C's we talked about. Focus more on the engagement. Focus on, do you feel comfortable and healthy as you move through those 2 things and through all of your vocalizations? And if that's so, focus on hearing the difference between chest and head that you want to make that jump. Focus on hearing for example, the octave rundown. Yeah. Focus on, pollen. Focus on hearing the sounds that you want to make. And your ear, rather than your throat and your held breath, will carve those out for you. So I hope that answers your question. I am going to see what time it is, 27. That is, we're getting close to my cutie patootie Lucas's pickup time, guys. I hope that was helpful. I'm sorry I can't go a little longer. We do have some other really, really, really great questions, which I'll keep for next month. We'll add those into the queue. I've loved being with you all, even though I can't see you all, but I've loved seeing your faces pop up in the chat. And next month, we do this every month, so we'll be here the first Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time of every month. So I think that's November 2nd. Don't hold me to that, but I think it is. And then we also have 2 more Zoom masterclasses this year. One is on October 25th. I think the singing spots are all taken for that, but you can still observe. And then we have another one with singing and observing spots open for November 15th before we get into next year. So lots of love, guys. Thank you so much for being here with me. Thanks for your patience as we are in the car, as I had to last minute come pick up my son from school at 12:30. And have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.